The most recent UN Security Council resolution on women, peace and security, Resolution 2242, adopted just a fortnight ago, urges police and troop contributing countries to provide robust pre-deployment training. We hope that this handbook will be a useful tool in strengthening such training efforts. So what are the challenges? 2015 is a world that seems even less secure than that of 2000. United Nations Secretary General Ban Ki-moon declared, at a time when armed extremist groups place a subordination of women at the top of their agenda, we must place women's leadership and the protection of women's rights at the top of ours. DCAF's particular field of engagement with implementing of the Security Council resolutions on women, peace and security is in relation to security sector reform. DCAF supports to build structures, processes and policies for security sector institutions that integrate gender and include women. For example, in Bosnia and Herzegovina, DCAF works with judges and prosecutors to improve responses to domestic violence and strengthen the role of women in the justice sector. Security sector reform is both explicitly mentioned in many of the UN Security Council resolutions and implicitly mandated in the UNSCR's call for reform within peacekeeping, armed forces, police services, and the judicial system, as well as increased collaboration with civil society. Even more recently, we also have to make sure that the Sustainable Development Goals are linked to gender and security and to the Security Council resolutions, and there in particular Goal 5 and Goal 16, equally gender and security. From an SSR perspective, reflecting on the processes we have been part of and observed over the past 15 years, I would like to identify 4 priorities. First, focus on gender equality in addition to women. The nearly exclusive focus on women rather than on gender in the Security Council resolutions and related initiative, and using the term women as an abstract, homogeneous category denies the opportunity to address root causes of inequality, violence, and other forms of insecurity. The focus on women rather than on the more complex power dynamics between people has enabled a tick-the-box approach, where the aim of gender equality has all too often been reduced to a depoliticized numbers game, rather than addressing the need for a transformative approach that seeks change within the broader mission and mandate of institutions, as well as institutions' culture. We need to promote gender equality in the missions and mandates of security sector institutions, as well as within the culture. Second, support institutional transformation with targeted action. The Council resolutions on women, peace and security each state the need for training. Unfortunately, much of the gender-related training offered to security sector personnel in post-conflict context is ad hoc and externally delivered. Rather than a one-off training, efforts should be concentrating on building institutional capacities for curriculum review, development, delivery and assessment in order to institutionalize gender-related training. Most of all, training is simply one part of the process of institutional change, which has as its goal the kind of structural and cultural transformation needed to support gender equality. Third, we need to build safe and non-discriminatory workplaces. Sexual discrimination, harassment and abuse within security sector institutions in countries engaged in armed conflict or peacekeeping is a form of conflict-related sexual violence that is often overlooked within the UN Security Council resolutions. We need provisions that are made to foster family-friendly and non-discriminatory work environments free of all forms of harassment and violence within security sector institutions, in order to further the goal of gender equality, including increasing the participation and retention of female personnel in the security sector and in deployments. Fourth, strengthen security sector oversight and accountability mechanisms. Security sector oversight has not been explicitly mentioned in any of the Council resolutions on women, peace and security, despite calls to ensure full accountability for peacekeeper misconduct. Internal and external accountability mechanisms need to be strengthened to address these problems. We need to urge member states that internal accountability, oversight and control mechanisms are mandated, equipped and trained to uphold laws and policies aimed at maintaining a non-discriminatory work environment, free of harassment and violence, as well as ensuring professional service provision to all parts of the community. DCAF has developed a range of resources on integrating gender in security sector oversight, and you heard my colleague speak about some of these already a little earlier today. The 15th anniversary of United Nations Security Council Resolution 1325 presents the critical opportunity to increase women's meaningful participation and rights in conflict prevention and peacebuilding. We must be self-critical about the hype around the milestones and take active steps to not just get caught up in the memories, but to take the next step and leverage these milestones toward action on translating commitments to accomplishments. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished guests, I would like first of all to take this opportunity to thank the Atlantic Club and the co-organizers from the Ministry of Defense of the Republic of Bulgaria for inviting me to give a small address in this occasion. It's an honor for me to address this distinguished gathering concerning Resolution 1325, Women, Peace and Security. And as it coincides this year with the 15th anniversary of the Resolution 1325, I would like to shed some light on Egypt's perspectives in this regard. I would like as well to shed a link to Egypt's non-permanent membership in the Security Council for the years 2016-2017, and the goal to support and promote peace and uphold the principles of the United Nations Charter. In this respect comes the importance of strengthening the role and the status of women, and strengthening the pivotal role of women in peacekeeping and peace building, a fact which is consistent with Egypt's comprehensive vision to enable women on all levels. In this respect, I would like to note that Egypt participates in UN peacekeeping missions with armed and police forces amounting to almost 2,090 individuals. Most missions are in Africa. In relation to this, Egypt supports the strengthening of the role of women in the framework of UN peacekeeping operations and in its efforts to mediate and settle disputes. Egypt has supported the goals and perspectives of Security Council Resolution 1325 since its adoption in the year 2000, due to its implications and importance for women's issues during and after armed conflicts. This support was manifested in different forms at regional and international levels. In addition to this, the Egyptian National Council for Women has adopted a national plan to follow up on the implementation of the Security Council Resolution 1325 in the framework of Egypt's active role in the settlement of international disputes. In this way, Egypt is one of the 17 African countries that drafted a similar national plan. In addition, over the past 15 years since the adoption of the Resolution 1325, Egypt held a number of events, including the regional workshop on the road to Security Council Resolution 1325 on women, peace and security, future prospects, as well as the Regional Forum on Security Council Resolution 1325, Women, Peace, Security. Moreover, the National Council for Women, in collaboration with the Arab Women's Organization, the League of the Arab States, and the United Nations, drafted the regional strategy, the protection of Arab women's peace and security. Egypt has paid special attention to issues of training capacity building, and in this comes the importance of the Cairo Center for Conflict Resolution and Peacekeeping in Africa. The Cairo Center for Conflict Resolution and Peacekeeping in Africa has organized from the year 2013 to 2015 7 training courses. The courses were devoted to the preparation of cadre and exchange of experience on the implementation of Resolution 1325 under the title Integrating Gender in the Field of Peacekeeping and Peace Building. In addition to this, 5 additional training courses will be held in the same field until June 2016. Ladies and gentlemen, there are definitely challenges ahead, such as terrorism, increasing conflicts, and the increasing numbers of refugees. Terrorism is a threat to peace, and in many cases it has become part of the conflicts. It is a threat that is increasingly confronting countries and hindering the ability of states to achieve their aspirations for prosperity. Terrorism threatens society as a whole, and women represent one of the most vulnerable groups. This issue is important as well in the framework of Egypt's non-permanent membership in the Security Council, bearing in mind the decisions and resolutions that were issued to complement Resolution 1325. Protection of women refugees is as well very important, as they suffer from lots of risks and hazards. Egypt hosts almost about 5 million refugees, and from this number there is about 350,000 Syrians who are integrated in the society, and they enjoy equal services as Egyptians, especially in the healthcare and education, which is a fact that's very important regarding women and children. While addressing issues related to Resolution 1325, it's also important to look at the suffering of women in conflicts, as well as the suffering of women under foreign occupation. In the end, to enable women, protect women, and emphasize the role of women, these are very important and necessary for the implementation of Resolution 1325, as well as their importance in the wider goal for securing international and global peace and security. Thank you.
Благодаря на нейно превъзходителство наистина за интересната информация, която ни представи. Сега финализираме нашия панел с презентация на нейно превъзходителство Лиерка Алайбек, посланник на Република Хърватия в България.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's not easy to be the last in the panel, especially before the lunch. I hope that we will have enough patience. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed Ambassador Schurman, Professor Popov, dear colleagues. First of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to the organizers of this conference on the occasion of the 15th anniversary of the UN document, which is of paramount value for the gender perspective, the UN Security Council Resolution 1322, Women, Peace and Security. I must say that this year we are also celebrating 70th anniversary of the United Nations. It's interesting how 55 years it took us until we finally reach the document of that value. This document recognizes for the first time the specific and unique influence of armed conflicts on the female population. The document also shows us how for a long time, little and insufficiently we appreciated the contribution of women in preventing and resolving armed conflicts, as well as in building and maintaining peace and stability. Our experience during the past 15 years has confirmed the importance of the role of women as equal and full participants in achieving those goals. Today, we are aware that women should not be seen only as victims of conflicts. They are also agents of peace and should be an integral part of decision-making in the process of restoring and maintaining peace and rebuilding their societies. In the framework of contribution to international peace and security, the Republic of Croatia is participating in peace and other similar types of operations with a special attention to the valuable role of women. In this light, Croatia is exerting to include women in peace operations as members of armed forces and the members of the police. Out of 6,555 Croatian participants in peace operations, 251 are women. In the Croatian armed forces, 10.17% are women. Much, but not enough. Out of that number, 15.69% are officers. At this moment, we have also 22 women in police forces in different missions in the world. The female members of Croatian armed forces are carrying out different roles in the missions, like UN missions, ULEX, UPOL, ISAF, etc., as military monitors, staff officers, executing military, police, and medical, and other military specialized tasks. More than 9% of Croatian women participated in ISAF mission in Afghanistan, which is above the NATO average. In 2014, 6 Croatian female officers served as gender advisors to COM ISAF. Here is the opportunity to point out the successful role of the first Croatian woman at the rank of general, Gordana Garašić, who last year assumed the duty as gender advisor for the commander of Security Assistance Force, which is part of the NATO mission in Afghanistan. Her experience and testimony also confirms how the presence of women in conflict and post-conflict situations make a significant difference and an added value to the initiatives as well as support to civil societies. In her mandate, she proved that through the women component, the mission can integrate more women in the security process to open the channels towards the institutions, NGOs, diplomatic missions, and international organizations, all with the aim to provide the secure working and living environment and reduce sexual and gender violence. I'm sure that Ambassador Schurman, during her recent visit to Croatia, had an opportunity to see how much importance of Croatian armed forces and Ministry of Defense attaches to the gender perspective as a tool to increase operational effectiveness. Since 2005, Croatian Armed Forces has executed education and training topics related to UN Security Council Resolution 1322, such as gender training, trainers course, gender field advisor course, and additionally, we are constantly training police officers for Croatia and also for our partners abroad. The gender perspective will be implemented in all core military functions as routine in planning, executing, and evaluating process on the tactical, operational, and strategic level. The participation of women in the military and police missions has its roots in the recent homeland war in Croatia, where 4.5% of all active participants were women. 127 of them were killed, and more than 1,000 of them were seriously and permanently injured and invalids. On the basis of that tradition, the women in Croatian armed forces participate together with their male colleagues in all activities in the country and in the missions abroad. The Croatian president, Mrs. Kolinda Grabar-Kitarović, prior to her election to that position, served as assistant to the Secretary General of NATO for public diplomacy. In her capacity, she actively supported the women's inclusion in specific tasks in NATO missions concerning gender perspective. During her recent participation in the high-level meeting on maintaining peace in New York, she has stated that Croatia, by participation in the peace missions in the world, including women, shares the values with its partners and allies in the UN, EU, NATO, and wants to bring security and peace to millions of people. Now the question is, what are still the challenges? We have been witnessing new modern threats such as terrorism and violent extremism. It is the new resolution 2242 from 13th October of this year that recognizes the seriousness of these phenomena, and for that reason, it is necessary to increase efforts to integrate agenda women, peace, security into the areas such as counter-terrorism and counter-violent extremism. It is a gender cross-cutting issue, and engaging the underrepresented gender will be imperative in the fight against modern threats. Second, humanitarian crisis is consequences of conflicts are increasing to dramatic proportions in today's world. At this moment, we are witnessing the tremendous suffering of women and children on the land and at sea, many of them trying to reach European countries. Only Croatia received so far 60,000, maybe in this moment 70,000 of refugees trying to reach the better life in Europe. Women within police and the armed forces are partly involved in solving these humanitarian problems. However, it does not seem that the answer to this challenge is handled systematically, especially not in the manner of including the women dimension in the entire process. It is of utmost importance to increase the number of women in financial resources for programs geared towards gender equality in peacekeeping operations. We must support the full implementation of Resolution 2242 with the goal of doubling the number of women in peacekeeping missions. The UN should have a key role in fulfilling this goal, with hopes that NATO and the EU will join as they have until now. UN Under-Secretary General and the Executive Director of UN Women, Mrs. It's hard to pronounce for me, Fuzmil Mlambo-Ngcuka, has pointed in July this year, dedicated to the issue of international development cooperation. The Croatian General Gordana Garašić, I mentioned her before, and I must say I spoke with her many times before and now while preparing this speech. She spoke about her experience as advisor on gender issue in ISAF mission, and she bared witness to the need of including women in resolving vital problems among the population. She explained how female soldiers are able to connect with members of the population otherwise closed off from their male colleagues. In Afghanistan, that was the case. Gender advisors have also sought to promote public awareness and ensure that the gender perspective has been incorporated in operational planning documents through the chain of command, as well as in document outlining NATO's current and future partnership with the host country. Mrs. Garašić concluded in Dubrovnik her testimony by quoting the words on one politician: "If you want to win, you cannot leave half of your team on the bench." I can conclude my intervention with: women are for sure, this other precious half of humankind, which should not be left waiting on the bench. Thank you very much.
Един чудесен завършек на нашия панел с презентацията на нейно производителство. Сега, надявам се, че няма да протестирате и да направим все пак някаква, макар импровизирана дискусия около изказванията. Разбирам, че обяда ни чака и всички тези, но все пак някъде около 10 на минути. Надявам се, че няма да протестирате. Протестирате ли? Ако не протестира, ако няма протест, да направим този опит. Който иска да вземе думата по тези изказвания, да зададе въпрос, please, you have the floor. There is a microphone behind you. Yeah.
Thank you very much. My name is Ilham. I am the ambassador of Sudan in Sofia. I would like to thank the club of the Atlantic Club for organizing this extremely important session, which I find quite interesting. And thank you also for the panelists for their extremely interesting expose. In fact, I would like to share with you some small anecdote and then maybe 2 or 3 points. The first one, because this resolution 1325 is of particular interest to me personally, because I was a witness when this resolution was first adopted in New York. I was working in our mission to the UN at the time. And let me tell you a very interesting issue here. In fact, this resolution, when it was first passed in Council, it was met with strong resistance, by the way, from many of developing countries in particular. At that point in time, the issue of the reform of the Security Council was very high in the agenda. And it was seen that the Security Council is yet trespassing, its limits and going to the territory of the General Assembly, which is more, as you know, representative of member states of the United Nations, contrary to the Security Council, which is limited in number of its membership. So this proves how the resolution evolved from strong resistance to gradual acceptance, especially for countries who were living in conflicts, like my own country at the time, and now countries which are emerging from conflict, like again, my own country. Now, my country has already started building its national plan with the help of UN Women, which is a very, very positive development. And the national plan of action should come out very soon. I think also on the nature of evolving nature of the resolution is how to make the resolution responsive to the national priorities and national concerns. And that is how in my own country, we came to terms with this particular resolution. We tailored it to our national priorities. Now it is very popular, especially in the Darfur region, among women groups, as a very important tool to protect women during armed conflict. Referring again to the issue of women in the armed forces in my own country, I heard one of the speakers earlier mentioning that there are still, maybe in Bulgaria, women are only not very much in very higher ranks, but in my country we have women who have reached the rank of generals, in both in the army and in the police. I would like also to share with you one more point in order not to take much of the time, how to tailor it to the national needs is how women local mechanisms of conflict resolution is working based on this resolution. We have women who are called hakamat, who are the local women who help, the local people to call for peace and to stop conflict and stop fighting and so forth. And indeed, they have become now almost well known in just like the Kachacha process in Rwanda. Now they are very famous in our region, the Sudan. Speaking about the challenges, the resolution, I think, should maintain an evolving nature in order to encompass new phenomena that surround conflicts. The classical nature of challenges or byproducts of conflicts are refugees and IDPs. But now conflicts are evolving. We are having new cases of refugees, cases of migration, as we see in the Middle East and at the borders of Europe, cases of terrorism, and cases also of girls, young girls, and women being recruited by Daesh and similar, organizations. So these are very important elements that the resolution should take into consideration. Last but not least is to strengthen maybe the code of conduct of peacekeepers in conflict areas. As we have seen in many, peacekeepers, there are many problems coming as a result of, rape cases and so forth. Thank you so much, and sorry if I spoke too long.
Thank you, Your Excellency. Мисля, че беше много хубав пример и много хубав коментар. Въпрос има ли към нашите панелисти, който да зададете към всички или към един от тях? Имало един професор на времето в Софийския университет, който имал такава фраза при подобна ситуация. Ние се намираме в безвъпросна яснота. Но има ли все пак някакъв коментар? Дори и на мъжки език, както каза посланник Хопкинс, дори езикът е все още мъжки, да се опитаме да кажем на този мъжки език нещо, което е свързано с ролята на жената и с равнопоставеността на жената. Има ли? Ако няма, смятам, че сме задоволили вашето любопитство и вашето любознание, така че приятен обяд до следобед. Благодаря ви за участието, благодаря на всички панелисти. Thank you very much for your real and very interesting and useful presentations.